Hello and good evening, possibly good morning, depending on where you are in the world. It is my pleasure and my honor to welcome you to this 10-minute meditation. My name is Dr. Keisha Siriboe, and I am honored that you are here with me today as we celebrate the life of Mrs. Ruth Whitfield. I want to welcome you to this virtual meditation that is dedicated to honoring the legacies and the lives lost in the Buffalo, New York supermarket shooting, otherwise known as a domestic terrorist act perpetrated by a young white supremacist who has identified himself as such. This 10-minute meditation is designed to uplift Black bodies. We're going to uplift Black bodies by celebrating the lives and the memories and the words spoken by the people who knew them the most, who knew them best. We are going to process racial trauma. Looking at the research, and I'll get into that, but I prepared for this meditation using the Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health by Dr. Rita Walker. I'll show it to you in case you want to go deeper into this, but one of the reasons why I am doing this meditation, pushing back against the attack on populations of color, is that this attack specifically had many facets. We have the devastation of the actual attack, but now we're dealing with the second wave, which is what we're seeing on social media, what we're seeing on the news as pundits are talking about it. We have to protect what is known as our psychological fortitude. And because the Black population was targeted, we already have attacks on our mind, on our bodies due to racism. George Floyd wasn't that long ago. 2020 wasn't that long ago, and so on and so forth. And so when attacks like this happen, they actually can be triggering to past racial trauma, past racial racial stress and strain, and have wildly impactful effects on the minds and lives of people who may not have been in Buffalo, but you have access to social media. I hate to say this out loud, but unfortunately, the white supremacists who did this live streamed it. And while only 22 people saw it at the time, it was recorded and sent out. And the last news report mentioned that over 11 million people have seen the video. Some of the people who watched the horrific shooting were the family members of the slain. So we're talking about a major attack of trauma and a lot of layers. And so I am honored to hopefully be one of many people that are online putting their skills, their research, their paid for credentials, and their faith on the line and getting involved. I'm that kind of advocate. I'm that kind of social justice worker. I'm that kind of unapologetically Black woman. And it is my honor to be here with you. And last but most importantly, we are going to celebrate the lives racism stole from us. They are so much bigger than their stories. Than what happened to them. And by focusing on their lives, how they lived, who they loved, I am going to share with you some of the amazing words that were spoken about this powerful, amazing woman. Today, we are focusing on the life of Mrs. Ruth Whitfield. Her family, in case anybody, because I'm a researcher, so if anybody wants to use any of the direct and primary resources that I am basing this celebration on, I want to make sure I share it with you. Her family did a press release or a press conference today with attorney Ben Crump and a few other local Buffalo attorneys, and they spoke. Her family spoke on the life of Miss Ruth Whitfield and how powerful she was. And so as I get into this celebration, it is their words that I'm going to be using to talk about Miss Whitfield. Miss Whitfield was described as an angel. She who loved unconditionally, sacrificed willingly for her family. She was a wife of 68 years to her husband, Mr. Darnell Sr., who has been in a nursing home for the last 8 years. I want you to know that Ms. Ruth got up every morning and personally went to her husband's nursing home and looked after him, took care of him. She was the primary caregiver. So we're talking about a woman who loved. She had 4 beautiful children, 2 boys and 2 girls. Their names were Darnell Jr., Raymond, Angela, and Robin. She was a grandmother, a great-great-grandmother. Her grandchildren talked about how she was amazing in the kitchen. Some of her favorite dishes that she was well known for were her mac and cheese and her pound cake. She was the glue. She was described as the glue that held her family together. It was her idea and her fortitude that created the tradition in her family, her large family, because she had children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren, and she would host Sunday dinners. And one thing her oldest daughter said about her is that her mother was her best friend as well as her mother. She said, and this made me laugh when she said it, she said her mother and her would go fishing and camping. And she said, you know, Black people aren't known for camping, but we did that. And her family smiled through their tears as they highlighted that their mother and her and their father, their family, their parents said that we were always raised to think bigger than our circumstances. They said that we lived in the city, but we were not allowed to be of the city. And what they're basically saying is, while they lived in an environment, if you know anything about redlining, if you understand the deeper ramifications of segregation and racism, a lot of times Black populations were isolated in terms of home ownership access to certain areas of the city. And those cities were largely neglected, and they basically had to police themselves. And so there would be crime. There would be elements that weren't ideal. And this family said, while you may live in this environment, you will always think higher than this environment. And one of the beautiful things about this family, and the oldest son said it, is that they were raised to be good people, people who believe in God, people who trust God, people who were taught to live with decency and love their enemies. But they said, what are we supposed to do with all this pain? And I want to answer that by highlighting what Miss Ruth Whitfield was known for. She was a woman of God. She was a woman of faith. So as we shift into the final moments of this 10-minute meditation, we're going to do some deep breathing in honor of Ms. Whitfield, and we're going to do it, and I'm going to play one of the strong songs that were recommended. And let me show myself so you can see me, because I also want you to see the book that I'm using in case anyone is interested. I am pulling a lot of my mental health suggestions for these meditations from this book. And in page 133, she talks about the importance of having a playlist of gospel songs. And because Miss Ruth was a woman of God, I thought it was fitting to honor her by doing our deep breathing to one of the beautiful songs that are mentioned in this book and also identify with church culture. So let me see. I've already queued it up. While this song plays, I want to ask you, I want Miss Ruth's face to be our focus. I have the YouTube video in case anybody wants to read and listen to the words of the family. And now I'm going to play this song because I want Miss Ruth's face to be what we focus on as the music plays. As this song plays, just breathe in deeply through the nose, breathe out through the mouth at your own pace. This is not about timing. This is not about doing anything perfectly. This is simply about breathing deeply. And as you breathe, I just want you to look at the face of Miss Ruth Whitfield. Look at the face of a woman who was known for loving unconditionally, who raised four amazing children, who loved her grandchildren, who was loved by her great grandchildren, whose advocacy has a family now fighting for an anti-Black hate crime bill right alongside the COVID-19 hate crime bill we saw passed in 2020. So this is a woman who lived well, and this is how we will honor her. Enjoy this song. And that was Safe in His Arms by Avery Sunshine. It is my honor to normalize the tears that I'm crying because Miss Ruth Whitfield was an amazing woman. And we are seeing the fruits of her labors and her sacrifices by the way her family is courageously fighting for rights, to make sure that their anger is channeled into positive change. I thank you for joining me, and you are welcome to join me tomorrow as we honor the life and legacy of yet another amazing life that racism stole from us. Be blessed. Goodbye.